But I think what you have to do is you have to look exactly at what Kentucky wants their kids to be able to do, and then design your question. Because, uh, I mean, like it or not, we are employees of the state of Kentucky. They are, our bosses. And if our product, our kids can't do what they want them to do, if our product isn't working, then, you're next on the line. And you got to think about it that way. If your kids can't deliver on the problems, you're not doing your job, you know? If the questions are accurately reflecting what Kentucky wants the students to be able to do, then your question's not worth anything. It doesn't matter. So, um, and I think the most difficult thing I think is also getting to those higher level order. Because I mean, I know for me, when I first started designing questions, it was first order questions. It was like, what is this? Do this, Then as I kind of got a little bit better, I started designing multi-step questions where they had to know a certain amount. Second order questions where you had to be able to do something, do that, and then plug that in to another question. So making sure that the two things I think are making sure that they're aligned with core content, as well as promoting higher level thinking by having more. And I don't think difficult's the right word to use for the question. I think it's more maybe multi-step or multi-tiered questions, and making sure that it's not just a plug and chug type of question where they have to think about it before they can come up with the answer. Okay. The physical setting of my classroom is pretty much when you walk in. I have anywhere from, I think my smallest class is 22 and my largest class is 28, 29, something like that. So I have 7 pods and we have these student desks, these individual student desks that have separate chairs. I have 7 pods of 4, 3 in the front, 4 in the back row, and there's enough room for me to walk in between each of the desks and monitor what the students are doing. And that's one of the biggest things I think is you want to be able to whatever way you do set up your room, it's got to be conducive for students to move around and for you to move around. I personally really like the collaborative model in the sense that I really like having students work in groups because it teaches them so many things. It teaches them how to work in a group because, I mean, we're all going to have to do that at some point in our lives. It teaches them social skills that, they have to be able to communicate with their group members, cooperation. It teaches them that they have, in order to be successful, in order to get that reward that I talked about earlier, they have to work as a group. And it teaches them skills. I mean, it's one of the coolest things I think to watch one of your students teach another student how to do something, and that's happened. Like I'd never seen that before. I think watching you've taught somebody something, and now they're teaching somebody else how to do that, and that happens on a regular basis in our classroom. So that's the biggest reason why I put them in those groups. And but you have to be, if that doesn't work for you, then you shouldn't do that. I mean, if you can't have your kids, last year I couldn't do that. I mean, I just didn't have the skills to do it at that point. They sat in rows and, I wanted their eyes continuing on me. This year I feel like I have more control, and so I can have them not all necessarily facing me at the same time, and I can move around. But I think the biggest thing is you want to be able to move around, get to every student, and make sure that when you need to distribute things that there's a set procedure and that it's not time consuming at all, and that they can, if they need to move around, then they can move around. But the board is up here. The desks are, about 7, and then there's a projector in the ceiling that projects on the board. And then we're actually really lucky in Shelby County because of the Intelligent Classroom Initiative that we have these things called airliners where we have a tablet, and whatever we write on the tablet shows up on the screen. And so a lot of times I won't even be standing up at the board. I just tell them to look at the board, and I'll just be standing next to, the students. If you need to just walk around, your physical presence changes their behavior so much. Like just you standing there, as opposed to you, having to stand in front of the room, changes so much because you're there. I mean, they're not going to be as inclined to talk. If you're there, they're not going to be as inclined to look at their neighbor's paper when they're taking a quiz. So you want to be able to make sure that you're physically, in a physical proximity close to all the students when you set up the room. I think that the biggest thing for any first year teacher is just be flexible, be patient, and have fun. I mean, it's a fun job. I think so. There's probably so many horror stories about you know teaching and oh, I have to deal with this kid and that kid. The bottom line still is you get to hang out with kids all day, and they do some of the most funny stuff. I mean, you're gonna laugh a lot. You're gonna see things that you just never thought you'd get to see in your life. It's a fun job, and don't always look at the negatives. I mean, there are just like anything, there are a lot of negatives, but the positives are so cool. When you literally get to see something that you taught a kid, I had an example where I use the word advantageous a lot. And I would say 50% of my kids had no idea what that word was. And I literally had probably like 4 or 5 kids go look it up in the dictionary and then start using it in their normal, when they were just talking to each other. That was like so cool. And I taught them that, and that will never leave them. I don't know any other job where you get to do that and affect that many people. So it's a fun job. Don't feel like it's just going to be this horrible, horrible thing. Um, but so enjoy it.